Park expansions, brand new restaurants, and even earthquakes. The things you might experience in Disneyland could be shocking in the best and worst ways possible. So let's address the biggest Disneyland shock factors before you go here on DFB Guide. Hey everybody, it's AJ for Disney Food Blog. Now, more than likely, if you're already starting to plan a Disneyland vacation, I reckon you at least know a little bit about the park basics. You know you're going to see a castle, you know there's going to be rides, and you know snacks and drinks are running rampant, and you know that, well, the whole trip isn't going to be cheap. Yeah, the sticker shock is real though, even if you're bracing yourself for that final bill. But we're not here to discuss the things you already know. No, we're here with the things that might have flown under your radar, both good and maybe not so good. So get ready for a healthy mix of shocking Disneyland facts for the newbies and the Disneyland pros alike, so everyone can be prepared for their next Disney vacation out west. Disney World in Orlando and Disneyland in Anaheim have a lot of similarities between them, but size is not one of them. While Disney World as a whole is about the size of San Francisco, meaning you're going to have to either drive yourself around or take Disney buses or purchase a rideshare if you want to explore everything, Disneyland is compact enough that you can pretty much walk around all of it without ever stepping foot on a bus or a monorail, though they are still available for you to use if you need them. The two Anaheim parks, Disneyland and Disney California Adventure, have park gates literally right across from each other, and you can get to both of these parks after strolling through the downtown Disney shopping district. As far as the resorts go, while Disney World has over 20 different hotels for you to choose from, ranging from value to moderate to deluxe level, Disneyland's only got 3 that are all deluxe. This includes the Disneyland Hotel, the Grand Californian, and the newly refurbished, redone, reimagined Pixar Pier Hotel. And each of these hotels is also within walking distance to the parks. In fact, both the Grand Californian and Pixar Pier have hotel entrances leading directly into Disney California Adventure. The Grand Californian is going to spit you out into the Grizzly Peak area of the park, while Pixar Pier is going to lead you into Pixar Pier. Fitting, eh? Meanwhile, the Disneyland Hotel is right across the street from downtown Disney. Even some of Disneyland's Good Neighbor hotels, which aren't owned by Disney but work directly with Disney to give guests cheaper hotel rates with similar Disney benefits, are still just a 15 to 20 minute stroll away from the downtown Disney's security gates. You'll just have to research and see which ones are closest. And if you stay over there on Harbor Boulevard, you're going to be able to get to Disneyland and DCA sometimes faster than the folks staying at the fancy hotels. So in a nutshell, getting around the West Coast parks during your vacation should be a whole lot less stressful than what you'll experience over on the East Coast. This is why a lot of folks with little kids do tend to go to Disneyland over Disney World, because it's a lot less stressful, it's a lot easier to manage, and you don't have to worry about trekking for an hour to get back to your hotel when someone decides to throw a tantrum. And along the same lines, Sleeping Beauty Castle is itty bitty too. Fun fact, Sleeping Beauty Castle in Disneyland and Cinderella Castle in Disney World are both pieces of architecture that Walt Disney referred to as weenies, or rather a visual enticement used to lure guests further into the park instead of lingering at the front entrance. Funny name, serious purpose. All of those big structures that are in the center of his theme parks, they are called weenies. But while Cinderella Castle has that big shock factor attached to it because of how tremendous it is, Sleeping Beauty Castle is shocking in a different way. It's just a little guy. While Sleeping Beauty Castle is still charming and lovely, it's the smallest castle out of all the Disney theme parks, standing at a mere 77 feet. To put this in perspective, your average 2-story house is 35 feet tall, so the Disneyland castle is about the size of two 2-story houses stacked on top of each other, which seems sort of big, but when you walk into Disneyland, it seems small comparatively. Meanwhile, Cinderella Castle is 189 feet tall, more than double the size of Aurora's Place. But don't feel too sorry for Sleeping Beauty Castle. Not only is this the OG Disney park castle worldwide, but it's also got a hidden walkthrough attraction tucked away on the inside that is very cool. Probably one of my favorite things in Disneyland. During the Sleeping Beauty Castle walkthrough, you can explore the story of Sleeping Beauty via a series of animated dioramas. Not only is this walkthrough immersive and enchanting, but you're never really going to have to wait in a long line to see it because everyone at Disneyland's already done it. So it's not new to them. Now, if you're interested in checking it out, just be aware that this walkthrough experience is narrow and winding and does include stairs. However, an accessible option via a virtual screen is also available if need be. Now, despite all that stuff I just said, don't let the size of Disneyland fool you. It might not have as many parks as Disney World has, but that doesn't mean Disneyland is lacking in attractions. Bria wants you to know that when she went to Disneyland for the first time as someone who'd grown up going to Disney World, a lot of friends and former colleagues warned her that Disneyland was going to be underwhelming since she was used to the East Coast parks. So during that first visit, she only planned one day in Disneyland and one day in DCA. While she was able to pretty much accomplish what she wanted to do in DCA and even squeeze in some re-rides in towards the end, there are so many things in Disneyland she had to sacrifice because she didn't have enough time to do it all. Disneyland Park is packed with rides and shows, snack locations, restaurants, meet and greets, and so many tucked away secrets that she really wanted to take the time to explore but had to rush through in the end. So both of our advice to you for visiting Disneyland is pick out your park priorities ahead of time to make sure you don't miss them. Get to the park early so you can start your day right away, like right before rope drop or earlier if you have that early admission option, which I'll talk about more later on. And consider setting aside 2 days for Disneyland, or get a park hopper ticket so you can jump back over to Disneyland if you wrap up your day in DCA earlier than expected. By the way, if you're trying to figure out what you want to wear during your Disneyland park days, let me just direct your attention real quick to dfbstore.com, where the unique Disney tees are plentiful. We got lots of designs you can choose from. Some might call you out for your Disney obsession. Some might help your travel group show off their love for Alice in Wonderland, the dark ride. Some might get you hyped for the new Tiana's Bayou Adventure opening in Disneyland later this year. You get it. We got lots and lots of shirts and all sorts of styles and colors and sizes. So check out our selection over at dfbstore.com when you get the chance, and see if you can spy a few sales while you're at it, because we like to give you a discount on select styles when we can. Now, another thing that might surprise you is that Disneyland will be expanding. You think Disneyland is packed with attractions now? Just wait. Right now, Disney is actively working on a project they've called Disneyland Forward. Basically, the goal of this project is to update certain building guidelines by working with the city of Anaheim and the local community, so Disney can have more flexibility for future projects. They've noted they're committed to spending $1.9 billion over the next 10 years under this proposal, which could lead to more park attractions, dining locations, stores, hotels. They've already kind of announced Pandora is coming. And on May 7th, 2024, a historic vote was made by the Anaheim City Council to officially approve the Disneyland Forward project, which means that Disneyland can begin to build new experiences for fans and create over 4,500 new jobs in the parks and over 9,000 new jobs in construction in the first 10 years. So what can we expect to see appear in the Disneyland bubble in the future? Well, Disney's been throwing out a lot of potentials, with proposed projects themed after Coco and Black Panther, Tangled, Frozen, Zootopia, Peter Pan, Tron, and Toy Story. In fact, while discussing the future of Disneyland Forward, Disney has in the past referenced some of the lands in its international parks, like Zootopia Land at Shanghai, the World of Frozen at Hong Kong, and Rapunzel's Forest at Tokyo Disney Sea. Big talk, but if Disney ever announced they were finally going to give Rapunzel more of a presence in the domestic parks, I might finally be able to forgive them for getting rid of the Great Movie Ride in Hollywood Studios. Maybe. But out of all the proposed Disneyland projects so far, there is one concept that's been a little more fleshed out than the others. Like I mentioned, that's a second Avatar-based land, much like you can find in Disney's Animal Kingdom. We even got to see the early concept art for it during the annual shareholders meeting that took place this last April. Of course, even with the concept art, this is still a blue sky idea for now, meaning that while Disney has the idea and early sketches for it, it's still not a set-in-stone project at this point in time. However, a key component of the Disneyland Forward proposal requests permission for Disney to build more thematic elements, including as many as 4 structures that measure up to 300 feet tall, which could very well mean we'll see new floating islands like in Animal Kingdom's version of Pandora if this project officially gets the green light. Next up, those earthquakes. Now, you might have heard us talking about hurricane prep when it comes to Disney World before, but when you're vacationing on the West Coast, you may be aware of potential earthquakes too. Over the last several months, at least 3 major earthquakes have been strong enough to be felt on the ground at the Disneyland Resort. The first was back in December of 2023 with a 3.5 magnitude earthquake that hit 1 mile east of Fullerton. The next was on February 9th, 2024 with a 4.6 magnitude earthquake that hit the coast near Malibu. And the third was on May 1st with a 4.1 magnitude that hit 3 miles from Anaheim. On each occasion, Disneyland enacted the protocols that the parks have put in place for such an event, meaning all of the park's rides, attractions and structures were shut down and evacuated, and each attraction had to pass an inspection to verify its structural integrity before the guest clearance was given and normal operations resumed. If you're ever caught in an earthquake, whether at Disneyland or anywhere else, the U.S. government has provided a list of guidelines on what you should do. If you're in a car, pull over, stop, set your parking brake. If you're in bed, turn face down and cover your head and neck with a pillow. If you're outdoors, stay outdoors and as far away from buildings as you can get. If you're inside, stay inside and avoid doorways. And no matter where you are, be sure to drop down and cover your head and neck with your arms. Earthquakes aren't necessarily a common occurrence in Disneyland, and more than likely you probably won't encounter one while you're there. But if you do encounter an earthquake while you're in the parks, be sure to listen to any and all instructions from trained cast members and follow what they have to say, since these cast members have all been trained to keep everyone safe during these events. So many new restaurants were announced for the Downtown Disney overhaul, and just recently, 3 of them made their official debut. All 3 new restaurants are from the creative culinary mind of Michelin-starred chef Carlos Gaitan, who has now brought us 3 new ways to experience elevated Mexican cuisine: Centrico, Paseo, and Tiendita. Centrico is a courtyard bar and restaurant described as an energetic central gathering place, which pretty much hits the nail on the head. Overall, Centrico gave us a great first impression. The staff is all incredibly helpful and attentive. The modern atmosphere of the restaurant is easy on the eyes, and all the different table options can easily accommodate small and big groups. We really enjoyed the food we tried here, and we felt like the ingredients were all super fresh. Some of our favorites include the Mexican street corn, you know my love for corn, the Centrico hamburger, the burrito norteño made with braised short ribs, crispy Oaxacan cheese, pinto beans, and lots of other taco-like fixins, and the guava pavlova, which is a super unique horchata foam with guava and mango puree topped with edible flowers. Just don't come here expecting a quiet and peaceful atmosphere. The seating is all outdoors and overlooks the downtown Disney district, so there's going to be a lot of hustle and bustle going on around you at all times. At Tiendita, you've got a fast food Mexican restaurant complete with a self-ordering kiosk, giving Disney guests a solid option in downtown Disney if you're looking for a quick, no-frills location to grab a meal from. The restaurant offers lots of classic Mexican dishes for a fairly reasonable price, like street corn and shrimp Acapulco. But word of warning, this place is pretty small. There's not even seating here, so you're gonna have to track down a place to park it and eat, which can be challenging during a busy evening in downtown Disney. Another word of warning, the utensils they give you at Tiendita are all wooden, which isn't necessarily a problem, except that our reporter actually got a splinter, which wasn't something I'd had on my 2024 Disney bingo board, but there we go. So just be careful and maybe consider bringing your own reusable utensils from home and avoid such a random casualty. Finally, over at Paseo, Chef Gaitan pairs his love of Mexico with French culinary style and technique in a sit-down dining experience open nightly from 4 to 10 p.m. Honestly, the food here is pretty good. The queso fundido is creamy, the mama's cochinita pibil is tender, the corn tortillas are nice and thick, and the Yucatan ceviche, made with hamache, baby cucumbers, fried plantains, mango habanero gel, and achiote agua chile, is surprisingly refreshing. I will warn you though that things here are a little spicy. Not too spicy for our team, but I also understand that spiciness is subjective. So if you're craving Mexican food minus the spice, that might be difficult to achieve here. Okay, this is a super hot take, but just hear me out for a minute. On May 31st, 2019, Disneyland Park opened Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, which was this highly immersive area with a state-of-the-art dark ride, an attraction that took you inside the Millennium Falcon to operate it yourself, a cantina and shops and quick services with animatronic Batuan creatures, souvenir experiences that let you create your own lightsabers and droids, a whole marketplace setup, and most importantly, an entire world where you just felt completely transported into another galaxy far, far away. So when we learned that Avengers Campus was going to open in Disney California Adventure shortly after Galaxy's Edge, we originally thought that level of Galaxy's Edge immersion was going to be implemented here too. And to be fair, maybe that was going to be the case originally before the huge COVID shutdown happened, which closed Disneyland Resort for well over a year. Now, I'm not trying to knock Avengers Campus. It's really cool and has lots of awesome opportunities to meet your favorite heroes and watch Spider-Man and ride a fun interactive Spider-Man attraction and eat comically tiny or giant portions of food over at Pym Test Kitchen. But as far as it being the land we thought it was going to be, it doesn't hold a candle to the detail and attention that went into designing Galaxy's Edge. Again, big reason for that is probably because we never saw the phase 2 of the Avengers Campus come to light yet. Originally, Disney announced that a second e-ticket attraction would be opening at Avengers Campus at a later date after the new area's big debut. On this attraction, guests would have boarded a Quinjet and traveled to Wakanda to join a team of Marvel superheroes in battle. On top of that, the ride would have featured seats that doubled as a weapon system and jetpacks, which sounded awesome. And we really did think we'd see this one come to light shortly after the Avengers Campus opening, since that's what happened in Galaxy's Edge. First, the Planet of Batuu opened, then later on, Rise of the Resistance opened. But here we are, 3 years on, and it seems the Quinjet attraction has been completely swept under the rug. Or has it? During last year's Destination D23, Disney shared that the Avengers are currently developing a new technology that will allow Avengers Campus to cross over into the multiverse. This new ride will apparently be able to transport recruits into new worlds in a matter of moments, while also fighting alongside your favorite Marvel superheroes. While Disney didn't make it clear whether or not this up-and-coming Avengers ride is going to be the same attraction they were planning on building in the first place, it is interesting that A, Disney hasn't brought up the fact that they completely disregarded Phase 2 for their original Avengers Campus opening plans, and B, that this new ride sounds very similar to what we were promised before. In the concept art, they've shown us that ride vehicle looks a whole lot like the ride vehicles from Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind, and in the description of this new ride, they've mentioned jump points, which are a crucial plot point in Cosmic Rewind, so we might be getting a West Coast version of this popular Epcot ride, I'm just saying. While we don't know when we should expect to see this ride go live in DCA, we'll be sure to keep you updated on its status and let our DFB newsletter folk be the first to know once we catch word about the latest Avengers 411. Okay, you know how we had the hot take before, and this is another hot take. Okay, Disneyland churros are better than Disney World churros. The end. Okay, not the end. Let's discuss why that might actually be, because there's actually sort of a kind of science behind it. A churro, in its perfectly pure form, is meant to be light and airy. It's a stick of fried dough. These tasty snacks originated from Spanish and Portuguese culture, so they're traditionally served with some crunchy cinnamon sugar that really adds to that airy texture. This is something that Disneyland does really well, and more often than not, we tend to find Disneyland churros to be perfectly crispy on the outside with a light fluffiness on the inside. Disney World churros, on the other hand, just don't give us that crispy crunch that we so desperately crave. Instead, they tend to be more dense and chewy. Not counting the churros at Nomad Lounge and Animal Kingdom, because those churros rock, and they are not considered a part of this hot take because those churros are absolutely the best churros ever. So, why do the Disney churros taste so differently on opposite coasts? Well, here's what our thought is. And if you are a food scientist, please let me know if we're right. The coasts themselves might actually play a big part. According to the Farmer's Almanac, dry baking ingredients like flour, sugar, salt, baking powder, and baking soda actually soak up moisture from the air. This tiny amount of extra moisture is enough to alter the quality of your cookies and cakes and candies and breads in not so good ways. Equally as important is the fact that humidity can drastically impact how well and how long baked goods keep. So just imagine all those poor chewy churros at the churro carts getting chewier and chewier with each passing hour as they sit in the humidity of Florida. Moral of the story, it's probably not the churros' fault. It's probably just Florida. That's a recurring theme, right? It's probably just Florida. But of course, it really could be the churro too. The brands could be totally different. I don't think they are. They could be stored differently, and the ones at Disneyland could just be more fresh because maybe more people are buying them in Disneyland, and so you have fewer of them just sort of sitting around. But if you want to know where you can find a Disneyland churro in the parks to test the theory out, here's a complete list of locations so you never have to go churro-less. In Disneyland, you can find churro carts and locations at Churros and Lemonade in Critter Country, near the Small World Promenade, right by Big Thunder Mountain Railroad, near Buzz Lightyear Astro Blasters, close to Casey Jr. Circus Train, near Haunted Mansion, steps away from Sleeping Beauty Castle, and near Town Square. Meanwhile, in DCA, you can get your fill of churros from the carts and locations in Hollywoodland, over at Cozy Cone Motel, near Goofy Sky School, outside the Redwood Creek Challenge Trail, at Senor Buzz Churros on Pixar Pier, and at Willie's Churros on Buena Vista Street. And don't forget that Downtown Disney has a churro cart too, called the California Churro Co., that can hook you up with that sweet cinnamony goodness minus the park ticket. Also, Disneyland has a lot of specialty churros, so keep an eye out for those seasonally. Okay, it may be tempting to purchase Disney Genie Plus for your upcoming Disneyland trips. You can skip over the main ride queues in exchange for much shorter queues. But before you commit one way or another, there's something big you need to know about Disney Genie Plus in Disneyland. And that is, not every ride is Lightning Lane compatible, and some of your favorites might be missing from the list completely. For Disneyland, there is no Genie Plus option for Alice in Wonderland, Astro Orbiter, Casey Jr. Circus Train, Chippendale's Gadget Coaster, Davy Crockett's Explorer Canoes, Finding Nemo Submarine Voyage, Jungle Cruise, King Arthur Carousel, Mad Tea Party, Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, Mr. Toad's Wild Ride, Pinocchio's Daring Journey, Snow White's Enchanted Wish, Storybook Land Canal Boats, Peter Pan's Flight, and Rise of the Resistance, since this ride has an individual lightning lane that's not included with the Genie Plus price. Usually, Pirates of the Caribbean would also be included on this list, but since Haunted Mansion is down for the count while those queue updates are being made to it, Pirates does have a lightning lane option for a limited time. For Disney California Adventure, don't expect to get lightning lanes for Golden Zephyr, Inside Out Emotional Whirlwind, Jesse's Critter Carousel, Jumpin' Jellyfish, The Little Mermaid Ariel's Undersea Adventure, Luigi's Rollickin' Roadsters, Mater's Junkyard Jamboree, Pixar Pal Around, Silly Symphony Swings, and Radiator Springs Racers, since it's also an individual lightning lane. Genie Plus can still be useful for the selection of Disneyland rides that are actually available through its premium service, as well as the unlimited PhotoPass downloads you'll receive for the day, but it's best to talk things over with your family before making a decision one way or another. A lot of people don't find getting Genie Plus useful in Disneyland, especially if they're going to get there early in the day and be able to get on all those rides. Also, especially if they're not there on a weekend, because weekends are going to be much more packed than weekdays in Disneyland. And if you can get there early on a weekday, you can probably get most of what you want to get ridden. Now, another big thing I got to warn you about when it comes to using Genie Plus in Disneyland, paying for it works differently here than it does over in Disney World. There are two ways to purchase Genie Plus on the West Coast. You can either purchase Genie Plus as a park ticket add-on ahead of time for all your park days for $30 per ticket per day, or you can purchase Genie Plus the day of each and every day right after park opening for a flex price, which means you could potentially have to pay more than $30 per person, but you'll also be able to choose which park days you want to specifically use it for, instead of automatically having to add it on to every day of your visit, like the pre-purchase option requires. Want to potentially cut down on your ride wait times without spending any money to do so? Single rider lines could be your ticket. The single rider line is free and fairly straightforward. It's designed to help Disneyland cast members fill in all the available space on designated rides. For example, if a Rowan and Credit Coaster only has one guest seated in it, then a cast member will pull a guest from the single rider line to fill in said empty seat. This keeps popular rides running at full capacity, but it also offers guests an additional option that could potentially shorten their wait time. So here are the big disclaimers for single rider lines. Single rider doesn't always guarantee a shorter wait. It possibly can be. You won't be able to request a certain seat like you can sometimes on the rides. You've just got to take what's available. And if you're entering the single rider line with your group will be split up. So if you don't like the idea of riding an attraction with just strangers, or you don't want your kiddo to ride without you, then you might be better off just getting in the regular standby queue. So here are the rides that currently offer a single rider option. Every so often, a very limited amount of rides will also have what's called a buddy pass option you may want to ask about. The buddy pass works similar to the single rider lines, but instead of going on the ride alone, you'll be allowed to enter through the exit of the ride with one other person, meaning you could board this attraction potentially a lot sooner than you would if you were just waiting on the regular standby queue. You can ask a cast member at the front of the ride if they're distributing buddy passes that day, and if you and your buddy are eligible to get one, then a cast member will hand you a physical buddy pass ticket to show that you're allowed to enter through the exit of the ride. In the past, we've seen buddy passes handed out at attractions like Toy Story Midway Mania and DCA, and the Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh in Disneyland Park. But as of recently, it seems like Mike and Sully to the Rescue in DCA will be your best bet on finding a buddy pass. Okay, let me make this loud and clear, y'all. The fireworks at Disneyland don't happen every night. On weekdays during slower seasons like mid-January and February, for instance, the Sleeping Beauty Castle fireworks will hibernate for a bit. Now, that doesn't mean you'll have no nighttime show to anticipate. The castle projections usually still happen. You just might not have that extra razzle-dazzle in the sky to go along with them. But when the crowds start picking up again during busier times of the year, the fireworks do tend to pick up and be more of a regular occurrence. If seeing those Disneyland fireworks is going to be a make or break situation for your trip, be sure to check Disneyland's hours and events calendar on their website to get a better idea of what days the fireworks will be offered during your visit. Mind you, the calendar only tends to show hours and show times up to a month or two in advance, so if you don't see them right away, don't panic. They're probably just not posted quite yet, but they will be. And don't forget about Disneyland Park's recently returned second nighttime spectacular too. After a year of fixer-uppers following the major Maleficent fire that caused significant damage to the set, Fantasmic has finally returned to the rivers of America. Currently, it seems Fantasmic is being offered twice nightly throughout the summer, but in the past, Fantasmic has also been known to cut down to one performance each night. Or once the slower seasons roll around, it might not happen at all. So that's another show you're definitely going to want to keep an eye on, schedule-wise, especially if you want to prioritize it during your next visit. Speaking of prioritizing Fantasmic, you can also book a dining package for this show too if you want a meal and VIP seating for the experience. The first announced Fantasmic dining package includes reservations for Blue Bayou Restaurant in New Orleans Square for a multi-course dining experience in addition to reserved Fantasmic seating. In the past, Riverbell Terrace Restaurant has also offered up dining packages too, so we'll let you know if that's going to be the case again later on. Now, if you're wanting to stay in those Disneyland-owned hotels just for the early admission perk alone, then don't let this recent benefit change shock you in the worst way possible. Once upon a time, the early admissions perk for Disneyland hotel guests allowed said guests to enter either Disneyland Park or Disney California Adventure, whichever one you wanted to visit that day, 30 minutes before the general public could. However, starting on January 20th, 2024, the early entry benefit changed and is now a bit more limited. Instead of both parks offering early entry every day, Disneyland Park and DCA now take turns offering this benefit. So you'll still get that extra 30 minutes, but only at whichever park has early admission that day. Again, be sure to check on the park hours and events calendar online so you don't miss out on using that hotel benefit if you've got it at your disposal. All right, now that all those shocking revelations are over, we can really start hammering out the details of your next Disneyland vacation. If you're ready to get serious about your Disneyland planning, make sure to check out our Disneyland 2024 playlist over on our channel next, which features lots of updated tips and tricks that you can apply to your upcoming West Coast getaways. And while you're at it, go ahead and watch the whole Disneyland playlist. We got a lot of cool stuff to share with you. Thanks for listening, everyone, and thanks for watching. As always, this is AJ for Disney Food Blog, and we'll see you real soon.